Hello and welcome back to the Queers On podcast with me, Alex Mitchell.
And me, Holly Noble.
This week we are joined by one of my favourite guests. I'm really, really excited. She's a fantastic comedian. She's been on the circuit for a very long time. She's done amazing work. Please welcome Lizzy Lenco. Woohoo! That's the best intro we've ever had.
It's not very visual, that kind of doing horns, is it?
Lizzy, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. People will see from the title what we're going to talk about, which I am very excited to talk about. I am, because I know very little about it, but people will be sitting there reading this going, what the fuck are these two doing? How are they going to get away with this? But we're going to give it a go.
We're going to try.
But always, before we get onto the topic, always our first question is, we always go, where are you and what you're drinking? But we know where you are. So what we're going to say is, what would be the perfect drink for you to have right now? What would be the dream scenario? What would be your favourite drink to have right now?
I think I'm feeling a bit espresso martini today.
Nice.
Yeah, I've not had enough coffee, I'll be honest with you.
Or enough vodka.
Yeah. So, and I don't drink a lot, but it's Mother's Day.
Yeah,
and I feel
so
that
go
would...
for it.
Yeah.
When otherwise can you? That's 100%.
Absolutely.
100% agree with you.
Yeah.
And then Holly always asks a question as well.
So, how do you think Robin Hood identifies sexually?
As in, are we talking a specific incarnation of Robin Hood, or
Oh.
we're talking the Disney one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the fox.
Yeah, the fox. How do you think he identifies?
He's definitely bi.
Yeah.
He's a bisexual fox. In fact, yeah.
Looked
Yeah.
me dead in the eyes when you said that as well.
He's
You're- he's one
definitely
of
bi. Perfect, love that.
So funny. That's also like the most concise answer we've ever had. Too. That
Yeah.
film is very camp. The more I think
Yes.
about it, that film, all of that film is very...
I think Disney as a whole.
Yeah, probably. But actually, every incarnation of Robin Hood is pretty camp.
Mm.
The Robin Hood in Shrek.
Oh.
I mean, but to be fair, he's French. Maybe he's just French. Like, maybe he's just French. Maybe that's just their vibe. I don't know.
I'm not going to say all French people are bisexual at this point, but, you know.
I think you said it.
I didn't say it wasn't me. No, it's weird because...
We have a listener in France, just say.
Excellent. Also gay.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, there must be. Fair play, actually. Yeah, why didn't I think of that?
and there's the evidence.
Yeah.
No, it's weird, actually, because my new show, there's a bit in it when I talk about what's the weirdest crush you've had. And the strange thing is the number of people who have crushes on cartoon characters.
For God's
Boom,
sake.
boom, boom.
It's-
I have a crush on Mufasa. Holly thinks it's weird. No, it isn't.
It's actually, I'm beginning to realise it's quite normal.
Yeah, it's normal.
Are they usually humans?
I think what I love most is the number of people who are attracted to Thelma from Scooby-Doo.
Oh,
I love that.
that is, yeah, to be fair, I'm not surprised that people are
Yeah.
like that. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Is there anyone for you? The more you've been doing the show, have you've had time to think about it?
I'm into robots, so yeah, that's my thing.
Okay. That's okay.
I'm into robots again. Oh,
I like the
nice.
metal.
Brilliant.
Great stuff. Wonderful work. Yes, because I think it's completely normal. I think that also the one I keep, because the more we've done this podcast, people have messaged in and spoken to us about it, and I've talked about Mufasa on stage in sets, and a common one I keep seeing is Titan from The Little Mermaid. You know, Ariel's dad. People, gay men,
Yeah.
love a bit of Titan.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I keep finding. That's what I keep finding out.
Yeah.
Anyway, there we go.
There we go. I think nothing to say about that.
Titan's pretty metal. He's got a trident. That can be a link into the topic. A trident's heavy metal. I don't know.
So, Lizzy, what is your topic?
Just ignore, yeah, that's a better segue, to be fair. Just the first one, just blatantly arse.
I had to come up with a title, and it's Proud and Loud.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so my topic is about queer culture and heavy metal.
Okay.
Which are two things that immediately I don't associate.
I think that's one of the problems. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stereotyping that goes on around what the heavy metal culture is like, and also a lot of stereotyping around what gay people are like. And when you put those two together, a lot of people are sort of surprised. So that's what I'm going to talk about.
I can see the link there.
Yeah.
I can see how.
There's a level of flamboyance
Yeah,
and showmanship
absolutely.
that I think links to it. I mean, I can sort of get on board. I'm a big punk fan. I grew up listening to a lot of my dad's old records, punk records, and now I listen to quite a lot of sort of newer punk bands that I really like. And like being a comedian, doing it full time, like I don't get to go into live music as much as I used to, and it's something I loved because I work in the evenings, so I very rarely do. But there's certain bands I get very excited for when I get to go and see them. But I think my thing with punk is there's a bit, as well as like, you know, the noise of it and the atmosphere it's created. I like the whole sort of it still feels very true to the whole sort of rebellious kind of thing. And also there are a lot of camp gay punk bands and all female punk bands as well, which are again sort of which have big like gay fan bases, and I just think they're amazing. There's so many good ones out there. So yeah, like I can sort of see where your link is coming from, but I think when I hear the words heavy metal, my head immediately goes to Metallica across. I almost couldn't say it. How much that proves I'm out of my depth here.
Like, think of a metal band, quick!
I'm going Metallica.
Yeah.
Def Leppard. Are they metal?
Well, so probably right now I'm going to clear up one of the sort of thing. For me, I'm definitely a metalhead.
Okay, cool.
I put Def Leppard into what you call hair metal or dad rock.
Dad rock, okay.
And I'm mostly talking about sort of more heavy side of things. Yeah. But I think that's the really interesting thing about bands, the hair metal bands, the glam rock. And there's a brilliant, I think his name's Tom Dare or something like. He podcasts on LGBTQ issues within metal, and he says that the thing is about metal is that you think you're in the right place according to your gaydar with all the leather and the studs, and then you think, oh shit, no, I've taken a wrong turn in. Do you know what I mean? And I think looking back, I mean, you know, you look at the image of glam metal, it's so queer. It's so queer. Yeah. And yet alongside that came a lot of toxic masculinity and a lot of like womanizing to kind of almost prove that they weren't gay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think glam rock, maybe not glam metal, maybe more glam rock.
Yeah,
is that like, again, the only band I can think of off the top of my head is like a band like Kiss.
Yeah.
Are they glam rock, yeah? Am I close
yeah,
enough
I mean,
yeah.
But
that's all makeup and showmanship, as well as, you know, they are.
And it's amazing and it's wonderful. I mean, I love a Kiss show. It's fantastic. Nothing against them, but yeah, I'm going to talk about thrash, pretty much thrash. I'm a little bit scared of black metal, I'll be honest with you, although my origins are goth. And the reason I'm talking about metal is when I was younger, I never felt the need to come out within goth circles because the androgyny of the goth sort of circle meant that it never became an issue. And I think goths in the 80s were a lot more understanding and open about bisexuality because sometimes you just couldn't tell. You know, you would be in a club and everyone had the same hairstyle, everyone was wearing the same outfits, you know, the long black coats, the wearing of floaty outfits. No one really knew. And I think that was an area where androgyny, bisexuality, those sort of things were a lot more accepted. Metal took its time, I think.
Yeah.
And there's a lovely comment. So the band OTEP, their lead singer OTEP, Shamaya, she's a lesbian, and she tells a story about being at a gig and there's two guys and they're fully tattooed, bearded, wearing bandanas. She's like, they look like Biker Central sort of thing. And she said she was really quite intimidated. She thought there was going to be trouble. They came up to do a meet and greet and he said, can I introduce you to my husband? And when she talks about that shift in, it's not just about how we we sometimes have our own prejudices about what a metalhead looks like. I do think things have changed. I mean, I would say so. I kind of, like I say, never really came out because in goth circles it was never a big issue. But I did hang back in metal circles. I never really talked about my sexuality. And I think I have to say the 80s were really, really difficult for the gay community. I'm really showing my age now, and I just realise you're looking at me. Now we know how old this comedian is.
We're just very interested in what you're saying.
Yeah, you talk so eloquently. What I love about it is you've said twice sorry when you've been halfway through an anecdote. And I'm like, no, please talk to us. Don't apologise for coming on our podcast and talking.
Talking. This is what my job is.
Yeah,
no,
what I need to do. Like,
the 80s were tough. They were really tough, and I think there was a lot of. So if you were bisexual in the 80s, it was very much equated with promiscuity. And in the era of AIDS, promiscuity was looked on as a really, really bad thing. And I think one of the challenges there was people kept quiet. So it became a lot more aware of people whose sexuality, you know, say, for example, if you were a lesbian and you were in a couple, that wasn't a big thing. But there were massive prejudices, I think, towards those who came out as bisexual during that era. And I think also there was an awful lot within the music industry closeted gay men because AIDS had given such stigma to sexuality. The 80s were really, really hard. And then the 90s, something shifted. And I genuinely think what caused the shift was Freddie Mercury's death. And I remember this. Not, you know, I always say he's not metal, but he's proper rock. And I remember my neighbour was playing Freddie Mercury songs over and over, and I was, why are you doing this? Don't you know he's died? And he'd never officially come out, you know, but that's when the world suddenly woke up. And I think his death changed how people saw AIDS. Genuinely, but I think also a warming, a kind of more acceptance towards the gay community.
I mean, and just how awful it is that someone had to die for that to happen. It's just a really awful and very true, bleak reality of what life is like, or was like then. And I think to some extent, you know, things are now, particularly things with the trans community at the minute, what is it going to take for transphobia to stop being on the rise it appears to be on? You know, I mean, are we going to have a similar situation where someone is going to have to fucking die for something to change? Like, that's an awful situation we find ourselves in, really. I also wonder quite a lot about, like, particularly you talk about, you know, culture in the 80s and things. Like, for me and Holly, that is something we've only ever been able to read about or listen about or watch from TV. And to be fair, even then, you know, we're talking the one TV show, It's a Sin, is literally like our only look into it, really. And so, like, it's such an interesting thing because especially for me, I am part of quite a big extended family in terms of my dad is one of 4 brothers, all of which have 2 children. And my mum's side of the family is, my mum's got aunts and things and lots of cousins. But as far as I'm aware, I am the only out member of my family, the first member of my family to be out as queer. And that's, you just think statistically that can't be right. You know what I mean? And you just want to, it's like one of the few things, like I say all the time, the one TV show I'd love to do is Who Do You Think You Are? Because I'd love to go back and trace that family line and just, I want to find the one other gay. The one, like, where did this come from? Where did this performative, like, where did this all come from?
I'm the same.
I don't know. Yeah, it's just a really interesting, I think there are so many people in that situation and they're like, it can't be right, surely. It can't be that we're the only ones from our family.
It can't be right, but then they probably just weren't out because it just wasn't any acceptance.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really interesting what you say about bi people. Like, I think that biphobia is so rife. Like, even today, and I can't imagine what it was like back then, but like, even today, and I think we've talked about it on the pod before about, like, where if you're with a woman, as a woman, people assume that you're a lesbian. If you're with a man as a man, people assume you're gay. If you're a woman with a man, people assume that you're straight. And it's like, as a bi person, how do you, you know, you're being kind of, you're having so much prejudice all the time, because no matter who you're with, someone is assuming that that's your sexuality.
I say it all the time. I say, like, bi people, pansexual people, the worst thing about it is that you are either not liked or you're not believed in. It's like that's what it feels like a lot of the time, because people are like, well, that's not a thing, pick a side. And it's like, well, that's not how anything works. Or people are like, just don't like you for it. Or
I'm annoyed at myself for this, because when I was like 19, I came out as bi, and then later on realised that actually I don't have an attraction to men, and I kind of had some internalised homophobia myself, and I'm annoyed at myself.
I don't think that's something to be annoyed at yourself with. I think that's something to be annoyed at society with.
Yeah, but then it's like, because people have said to me, like, oh, that was just like a soft launch then, and things like that, and it's like fuck off. No, like, I actually believed that, and you don't have to, it's not a progression. Like,
I truly believe.
I love this idea that we're progressing.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, well, we start off, and it's like a little bit like learning to ride a bike. Well, we've still got the stabilizers on, so that's bisexuality. And then eventually we're gonna take the stabilizers off, and you're gonna be fully gay or fully lesbian or whatever. Rather than I am attracted to people for one reason or another, and it's usually a look, and I have a type, but that type is not gender specific. So it's a weird one. I tell you what's really funny is the world cannot cope with a bisexual woman dating a bisexual man. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, that's not allowed.
That's just makes brains explode. Like what goes on? And they genuinely think.
Go?
I tell you what, they genuinely think that me and my partner are just every night we've got foursomes going on. Like it's just like an orgy. That's what bisexual people do.
And to be fair, thanks for the invite for that.
It's a great one.
Alex.
As I said it, I went, this is a risky joke.
I don't mind at all. You're always welcome, but mostly...
Well, you shouldn't assume I'm doing it. It's fine that I do it. You shouldn't assume
No,
that
but
I'm
mostly I'm just too knackered these days. I'm an old bisexual. That's the problem. And as we get old...
to arrange this podcast. Now imagine an orgy. God.
We have a lot less cats. That's about the only difference between me and a lesbian. But so that I mean that back to the heavy metal. No, but that's the thing, and you're absolutely true, and there are so many misconceptions, and really that is and it's almost right. So because I used to play the guitar, I used to be in metal bands. And one of the really interesting things was it was no place for a woman because we were supposed to be the groupies. Yeah. And so a metalhead female who with a kind of interest in sexual leanings was unusual. Not like what do we do with her? And there's also a little bit of fetishizing goes on as can we watch kind of mentality. And that just has always annoyed me. That always has been a huge issue for me. And I think that was one of the frustrations I had early on of getting into metal. But things did change in the 90s and it was interesting. And then Green Day. And it was interesting what you were saying about punk. When Billy Joe Armstrong came out as bisexual in the 90s, that was another, I think, step forward because it was so ordinary the way he did it. It wasn't a big fanfare. It was just like, what's the big deal? And I think that, again, was a sort of step forward. And then, of course, you got Rob Halford. And one of the things I absolutely love, Rob Halford, lead singer of Judas Priest, possibly one of the kind of most metal bands there is, one of my favourite metal bands. What I absolutely loved was the number of people who were surprised when he came out.
Right.
Because if you ever see him, like the leather, the fetish gear, I mean, it's an amazing stage show, but everyone knew. Yeah. You just look at him and know.
Yeah.
But in the middle of an interview, I think it was on MTV. It was on MTV. It was something like, it was just in the middle of an interview, and he said the words, as a gay man. and then carried on with what he was
Oh,
saying.
wow.
And the world went just a little bit bonkers about
I
it.
love that.
That's such a great way.
I love
isn't
that.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like not officially coming out, just like dropping
Just
it.
dropping it into conversation.
Yeah,
yeah.
I
But in a
love
way,
that.
that's just as impactful as anything else
Yeah.
you could have done. Like,
Yeah.
it's so I think that's why, like, when you have a platform, it must be so much more scary to come out once you have a platform. Like, because it must be so much more like, this feels like there's so many more eyes on you once you have a platform. And again, it's like the same when you first start talking about it, like as a comedian, when I first start talking about it on stage, or particularly when it's, you know, you start doing bigger shows, or, you know, you start doing your own shows and people are coming to see you, and then you talk about it, that can then be quite that's a big deal. It's almost like coming out again. We've said it before, like, you don't come out once, you come out all the time. Like, just all the first time you walk into your supermarket with your partner, you've just come out again to everybody in your local supermarket. You know what I mean? It's like, that is what it feels like, the eyes are on you. So, but I guess that, yeah, like I said, I think when you have that platform, it must be even more terrifying, because it's almost like the eyes of the world are watching you. And so to do it in the way he's done it there is absolutely remarkable, really.
And there was a backlash. There was a backlash. And interestingly, I mean, he will actually from stage, when he's in the middle of it, say things like, "I'm here, I'm queer, get used to it," that kind of thing. But what I and one of the things that I think pretty much everybody who knows me knows that one of my favourite bands is Metallica. Mm-hmm. I'm a big thrash metal fan, but right at the start of thrash metal, there was a lot of homophobia, a lot of what I would call toxic masculinity. And I always think that's hilarious, because thrash metal came out of the Bay Area of San Francisco.
Right.
Is that the gayest place on earth? And so one of the things that I've always found very interesting, particularly about Metallica, has been their support for the gay community. I mean, James Hetfield, the lead singer, has on stage said, "I don't care, you know, what you've got going on in your pants and who you're sleeping with. It's not relevant to us." It was like, but a lot of their songs, their lyrics speak to those that are outsiders, speak to those that have been marginalised. And one of the other interesting things is that the guitarist of Metallica, Kirk Hammett, has had years and years and years of homophobia directed at him, because he doesn't look the usual metal type. You know, he's a long-haired, skinny chap with lips. He's absolutely stunningly beautiful, and particularly in his youth. And one of the things that happened with Metallica was, in reaction to that, the drummer Lars Ulrich and Kirk Hammett started gaying it up, is the only way I can put it. And some of the images that come out in the 90s of the two of them publicly kissing each other and all over each other, and photographs of them in each other's pants, it's amazing. And a lot of that was them making a stand about homophobia in metal, and they came out as huge supporters of Rob Halford when he came out, and have sort of had him on stage with them a lot, and they've done a lot really to sort of normalise being queer in metal.
We love an ally.
We love an ally.
We love an ally.
Absolutely.
I guess it's again, it comes back to that idea of that radical rebellion that I guess is what that sort of metal is kind of built on a bit. Like, it's, and you know, certainly things like punk music is built on, is that idea of that being rebellious and not conforming. But again, to come out in support of something obviously so important, but in such a rebellious way, but do it in a way that is, you know, different. It is radical because it's different. It's not been seen before. People are going to look at it and go, "What the fuck?" Like, you know, it's just a really powerful way of doing it. I think any artist with a platform, whether it be music, comedy, art, you know, art in general, if you've got the platform to do something like that, it's an incredible thing to do. But you have to find the right way to do it to make it impactful. I think is often how we feel is that if we can't just say something, it's got to have an impact, it's got to have a point. And so to do it in the way, you know, those examples you've mentioned is really, really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I think if See, once Metallica had done the self-titled album, Metallica, or often known as the Black Album, once they'd done that and they were global, they could take those risks.
Yeah.
And in the 90s, they had to play around with their image, and they started wearing makeup, a lot more flamboyant clothes. I mean, I love the album Load. There was a lot of criticism for their change of image, why have they cut their hair short, what they're doing wearing eyeliner. But actually what they were saying on Load, there's some really good lyrics. And what I also love is that the album cover, I mean, Load is a euphemism, of course.
No, of course it is. Of course it is.
The album cover was done by an artist who specialised in art using blood and his own semen.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that tells you pretty much that they were making they were making waves with what went on in the 90s.
Hollie's never looked more uncomfortable on the podcast. What a fact.
Yeah. Here's sorry, I said semen to a lesbian. My apologies. My you know, you were saying earlier about families.
Yeah.
So I've got a bit of a weird family. I like to tell people. I like to tell people that my parents had one of each. So my sister was what I call a 5-cat lesbian. I made her a little badge with 5 rainbow cats on it.
Amazing.
But she was in a long-term relationship with her partner. So they got a lesbian, a bisexual, and a Pentecostal worship leader. So I grew up with a fundamentalist brother.
Wow.
It still just thinks I'm probably the whore of Babylon.
Jesus Christ.
Can you imagine? So yeah, it was an interesting thing to grow up. But when my sister came out, it was me that was asked to tell my mum. So, you know, it was like, can you have a word with my mum? And then many years later, my uncle came out. So after years of having that, you know, almost suppressed, he finally came out, and guess what he did? He called me and said, can you tell your mother? Like, is that my job in the family?
Yeah.
You know?
My sister told my mum.
Yeah.
My sister was the first person I came out to, and I was very much like, don't tell anyone. And to be fair, she didn't for probably a year, like a very long time. And then one of my mum's friends, her daughter, had just come out, and she was going, yeah, my mum was like, oh, my friend, she's struggling because she just feels like, not that she's against it, but she feels like, should she have known earlier? Should she have known, you know, does she feel like she didn't actually know her daughter properly? Did she feel like she couldn't come out because of what I was like as a mum? Was I a bad parent to them? My mum was talking to my sister about that, and then my sister was like, okay, we need to talk about Alex. just so you feel okay. So yeah, and that's but then that's how that sort of came. But then even then, I'm sure my mum would have told my dad, but it then took me another year, possibly 2 years before I told my dad. Before I actually told my dad, and it was very sort of, but again it also, I suppose with my mum, and my mum has always made it very easy. And like, in fact, my dad to some extent as well. Like, it really has been, you know, it's been comfortable. I think the harder thing I find is when you go to big family gatherings, and it is like you are the black sheep. You are the only one. It's a bit like, it still feels occasionally like the elephant in the room when you're at those big events and things. I guess now what's taken over it more, which I love, is that, you know, my chosen career is now the elephant in the room. Because I'm the performer. So I'm much more comfortable talking about that. That's fine. Like, so that's definitely made it easier for me. But again, I think just like I say, my dad is one of 4 brothers who are all very, you know, competitive, sporty, lads kind of men. And the kids in the family, all their sons are very similar. Like my brother as well, very competitive, very sporty. Although interestingly now is at university doing his masters in photography, which doesn't fit the vibe at all. But it's nice that, you know, there's a couple of artists in inverted commas in there. But again, they're all like that. And so for me, it was very much like, still felt like, oh, I'm the only one. Which again, I guess I thought I bonded more with my female cousins, just because it was easier. But like, it's never like I say, I've never experienced like homophobia from my family. Not saying that at all. And I think they're great, and I love them all, and I think they're amazing. But there's still times, like, especially when in those first couple of years, it was very much felt like, oh, I'm the odd one out here, and that's challenging, and that can be quite difficult. But then I think that's probably how you fall into doing something completely different. So for me, doing comedy, I almost feel is quite rebellious, because my family they're either tradesmen or they work in offices or something in finance, something boring like that. And so I think doing comedy was almost quite a rebellious thing to do, or just something quite different to do. And so like it just felt, I think that's for me how I probably almost dealt with it. It's probably how I fell into comedy, was feeling like the odd one out, feeling like the one who was different. I guess maybe that's sort of how you sort of initially fell in love with heavy metal, and sort of.
Definitely it is music for the outsider, and I think I've spent most of my life, I wouldn't say I worry about being an outsider. I do feel like an outsider. I don't fit into many people's boxes. Well, actually I try and get in a few boxes.
The instant regret when you started that joke and immediately regretted it. That was so good.
Let's move swiftly on. Let's move swiftly on to not talking about anyone's box. But I think, but the thing is that yes, there was a lot more acceptance as time goes on, but my family have never really come to terms with me. I mean, my mum still says things like, and what will you be bringing with you? Who, mother? Oh, because okay, that thing of they understood with my sister and my uncle, because my uncle's now married, to his long-term partner, and I think that it just baffles people. They just don't understand what's going on. And I did, and I got a little bit, I wouldn't say complacent, but I got quite comfortable with heavy metal. I thought we were all right, and then in about 2021. Now the lead singer, not the lead singer, the keyboard player, I think it was, of a band called Faith No More.
Okay, I know Faith.
You know Faith No More.
That's
right. Okay.
Other than Metallica, it's the first one I recognise.
You recognise Faith No More.
I'm very proud of myself.
His name is Roddy Bottom.
Okay, come on. Who was surprised?
Wow.
Genuinely.
Wow.
Genuinely his name. Really, I looked up that his parents are called that.
That's his birth name.
It's his birth name. He didn't change it.
Incredible.
It is. But I have it under good authority that he's actually a top. So he made an album with his partner, and it's called Man on Man. And the backlash was astonishing, like proper hatred from the metal community. And I think that shocked me. And there has been other incidences of, and particularly within
when was that album
black
released?
metal, 2021.
Jesus. So
Recent. And I think that really bothered me. Yeah. That in the past, and there's been where metal performers have expressed on stage support for the queer community, and then they've been vilified or they've been threatened. In one case, a security guard attacked a performer on the basis of them showing support for the gay community. But that backlash about that record, and one of the things that had upset people so much were alleged graphic photos. And I absolutely tell everyone, Google the images of Roddy Bottom and his partner, because they are just glorious. They're wonderful fun. They are just brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant. And they almost subvert the kind of Instagrammery couple kind of photographs. And it's just wonderful and joyful for me to see. But it was a shock to me that in this day and age, metal still has that element of... And one of the things I think, and this is particularly within doom metal, black metal, and to some extent still like Pantera and Slayer and those kind of followers, the involuntary celibate of the world, who are angry, particularly at bisexuals, because they think we're getting too much sex while they're getting none. Again, come round my house and see me on a Saturday night having a nice cup of tea and realise that we're all in the same boat, mate.
I think that you talk about it so eloquently, and it is such an awful thing that this has happened. And the thing, I guess it's sort of like the thing you love maybe isn't as good as it should be. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's tough. I mean, I have issues with, I'm a huge sports fan, and there's been lots of issues with that in more recent years. I mean, on a recent episode, I talked quite passionately about the Stonewall campaign and rainbow laces in football, and some captains refused to do that, and it caused an absolutely monumental backlash. Some wrote religious messages and political messages that were just wrong. And yeah, it felt like that was like the thing I love isn't what it should be anymore, isn't why I love it. And that I kind of can fully understand your frustration with that, and not just frustration, but genuine just upset at that. But I think what would be a really nice way to end this podcast would be if you could, in just a couple of sentences, try and sum up what it is that you love about heavy metal. Why do you love it? Why should other people love it? If you could try and sum that up. I know that's hard. That's a tough question.
It's a really tough question. It might take me a little while. You might need to do a bit of editing. Right. One of the things I want to say, and this is what I love about the heavy metal community. So I went into one of the groups. This is the Download group, where we all just talk about nonsense. And I sort of raised a question around how people felt about it, and the overwhelming support from the Download community for like, actually, it's a small minority. They might be vocal, those who are kind of a homophobic, but they're a small community. Overwhelmingly, the Download community is like, we're on your side. But one of the things that really cracked me up, now, I've been dared to say this on the podcast because it's so hard. I had to have a practice. A band called Sanguine Sugarbug. I didn't get it right. Sanguine Sugarbug.
Who is daring you to say things on the podcast?
No, basically, this is the name of the band.
And say.
the lead singer of the band has come out as non-binary.
Okay.
And the support has been overwhelming. And it's almost as if we've all just gone, yeah, whatever. Yeah. So that's the good side of this. But what I loved was I put in this group, I've got to say this live, how do we say it? And the amount of just jokes, but lovely jokes, not anything against them, but just like saying. And then one guy, and he really made me laugh, he said, actually, it's pronounced Steve. It's an Irish name. And that's the joy of the heavy metal community. The lyrics are hard and harsh, but they're often, relating to something that we're going through. And I do tell people this story. When I was in a coma, my friends were asked, what's her favourite music? Because they call them torch songs, they play them for you, and they play them over and over again.
I know where this is going. Oh my God, I'm excited.
and so my friends, bless them, they chose Rage Against the Machine's Wake Up.
Of course.
Really?
Genius.
Yeah, it's brilliant. They also chose Chemical Romance's Famous Last Words.
Oh my God. When you're in a coma.
Yeah. Or a band called Paradise Lost, No Hope in Sight.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the worst one.
No, it's not the worst, because the worst is Metallica's One. Yeah? And I don't know if you've ever heard this song, but listen to it. It's a song about losing your arms and legs in a landmine explosion.
Oh my God.
That's
oh my
proper
God.
metal. That's metal. But any band that can sensitively write a thrash metal song about someone seriously injured, and that's it. That's the thing about my genre. They take on really, really big issues. They write songs that are really hard-hitting about, Kirk Hammett himself talks about his difficult childhood. He had a violent father. James Hetfield talks about his father walked out when he was 13, leaving him to look after his mum who was dying of cancer. And by the age of 16, he was an orphan, and then went on to lead one of the best heavy metal bands there is.
Yeah.
And they put that alienation, that pain, that trauma into their lyrics. And then kind of, it's a rallying cry for people like me who are looking for somewhere to belong. And weirdly, I found it in heavy metal.
And Lizzy, thank you so much. That's such a great chat and something that we have absolutely no idea about. We've learned so much, but also just like how eloquently you put it is so wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I mean, it seems awful to have to end it because that was so much. That was so wonderful.
I could learn a lot.
Yeah, I genuinely just had a great time. That was so lovely just to listen to someone talk about something they love. It was just really, really lovely. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. You're going back to the Edinburgh Festival this summer with a new show, which is very exciting. People will be able to find tickets to that very soon, I imagine.
Yes, they're already on sale. They're already on sale. The show's called The Limerence, and it's a show about my unusual infatuations, and it's kind of a bit of audience participation. I want to know what you're infatuated with, what your crushes are. It is a queer-friendly show. It's also a little bit about disability. It asks the question, what's wrong with me? And answers it.
Nice. Fair play to you. Fair play. And people can follow you on social media, yes?
They can. Lizzy Lenco. I'm on Instagram as the Comedy Writers Club. And join the Comedy Writers Club because I run workshops online and in person.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This has been the Queers On podcast. Please follow us, leave a review, rate us on Spotify. That would be amazing. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next week on the Queers On podcast. Bye.
Bye.